My name is Debbie, and I am the shrink on your couch. I'm preparing this post in response to a very common theme that I see both in my own bariatric group on Facebook as well as other bariatric forums, where somebody comes along and they start a post desperate for help, crying out for help. I'm sure you've seen them. You might even have posted them, and you say, I've gained 10 pounds, I've gained 20 pounds, I'm so out of control, I don't know what to do to get back on track, I'm eating badly. They might share that there's been some personal trauma, there's been grief, relationship upset, whatever the case may be. There may or may not have been that. And then we move to the comments. And generally the comments, I find, are divided into two camps. There are the people that say things like, I'm really sorry you feel like that. I'm sorry you're going through that, but chin up, you've got this. You can still overcome. Tomorrow's another day. We all have days like that. You're not alone. You know, those really wonderfully supportive, you got this, girl, and we're all in this together posts. And then there'll be people who will either somewhat aggressively or very kindly say, you got to get onto keto. You've got to get off the sugar. You've got to get off the carbs. We are sugar and carb addicts as our primary condition as obese or formerly obese people. And the only way to combat the cyclical eating condition is to get away from sugar and carbs. And then they might make reference to keto groups or bariatric keto, and they put that out there as a miracle cure. And I have mixed reactions to this. Because I know what they're talking about. I know what they mean. I myself try to pursue a lower carb, higher fat lifestyle. And I do find benefit in that. But it's not the answer. And it's certainly not the answer for that person where they are on that afternoon at their point of need. Saying keto or sugar-free to somebody who is off the wagon to that extent is not helpful. In fact, it's probably quite shaming. It probably exacerbates or highlights the distance for them between where they are in that moment and the solution. And that distance can then feel so wide and so broad that they might feel even more despondent than they originally did. It also sounds a little judgy. Keto, stop eating sugar. You're feeding the problem. You're perpetuating the problem. It might sound a little judgy, perhaps a little condescending. I know it's not how it's meant. And I also know, as you might do, how empowered people following that lifestyle feel. Because once you get into the zone, and once you are off sugar, and once you are supplementing cravings with a little bit of healthy fat and adding flavor and substance to your meals, you do, there is a logic to that, and it does help. But the distance between how that person is feeling and the just do keto is so broad. And that's what this video is about, and that's also what the associated article is about that I'm about to publish and then link to this video. What I want that person to know is that they need to start with a bit of self-care, that they probably need to start with a journal and a pen and start writing how they're feeling. Start dumping all of that negativity, all of that disappointment, all of that self-loathing sense of failure onto a page so that you can start to unpack it and process it and metabolize it. That in getting rid of all of that toxic emotion that is pooling up within you, you can start to think clearly. And when you've cleared a lot of that emotion, then you can start to strategize. And not to strategize from a place of self-loathing and a commitment to willpower. I ate so badly yesterday that I will absolutely eat nothing off plan today. It doesn't work. What I'm suggesting rather is that you do some head and heart work, some processing, some journaling. And when you've cleared the emotion, you start to strategize. And that plan might well include starting to reduce your carb intake and experiment with whether that in turn shifts your cravings along and helps you to feel a little bit more in control and a little bit less hungry. And so the first point of reference for anybody in that place is only ever going to be empathy. It's not going to be get the hell off sugar, and it's not going to be, oh shame, sorry, tomorrow's another day. We need a plan. And the plan comes about by doing some really robust work. And so what I speak about in this article that I've got is that, you know, the answer often is to get off sugar. The answer often is to reduce carbohydrates, but it's not always that simple. If we state this in such a militaristic fashion, we end up making the person feel worse about themselves, because they know that they're not going to be able to implement that in any time soon because of the extent of their current crisis with food. Abstinence is a wonderful idea that some people do extremely well with. But even if you subscribe to the idea of abstinence, theoretically, you still need to get there. You still need to get from your bloated, self-loathing carb coma to a point of abstinence from sugar. And the distance between that carb coma and the abstinence is what I call bariatric mind mastery, which is part of what I've just expressed to you. It's starting with your head, starting with your heart, starting with your own psychology to connect, and from that place of connection to soothe yourself into an eating modality that will be kinder to you. But if you jump right in to anything that looks and feels like a diet, it's not going to work, it's going to implode, and you're going to be even more self-loathing within a few hours. I go on in this article to talk about the difficulty with food addiction. Food addiction, sugar addiction. They are controversial terms. Not everyone even buys into them in the same, in as much as they're the same as alcoholism, cocaine addiction, gambling addiction, etc. And it's controversial. There's no answer to this. You know, some people will tell you that if you MRI the brains of people after they've eaten sugar, they light up in much the same way as somebody would do if they'd used cocaine. But then, you know, there'll be counters to that argument too. My feeling is that we definitely have a lot of compulsive reactions to food, and I definitely believe that there's a lot of neurochemistry involved in eating and food cravings and sugar and carbohydrates, specifically around dopamine. I do think that that people who battle with obesity have cravings that are induced by dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that makes it really difficult to withstand that craving, and so we're more likely to give in, and when we give in, we're then more likely to have an even more strong craving induced by more dopamine the next day, etc. going forward. So you know, I speak a little bit about that in this article, but I also touch on the fact that any sort of food issue is so much more difficult than a substance abuse problem per se, because we still have to eat. We still have to sustain ourselves with food day in and day out. And so it takes so much more work and so much more tricky management to overcome obesity and food-related issues than it might do where you're just giving up smoking, giving up cocaine, giving up gambling, where all you do really is go through some withdrawals and then change your environment. So, you know, I talk about the head work, the heart work, the bariatric mind mastery, which, if you like me and you like my approach, you might want to look into further. Bariatric Mind Masters is a very intensive, comprehensive 8-module program that I designed specifically for bariatric patients, specifically for the ones who relate to being compulsive, emotional, anxious eaters. And in that program, I walk you through a series of teachings and practical exercises that help you to slow down when you're activated and triggered and bingy and craving. Teaches you how to slow down, get a handle on your mind, on your heart, on your emotions, how to make sense of what you're feeling, how to deal constructively and proactively with your life and your life challenges so that you don't automatically reach for food, and then undo all the gains that your surgery will have done for you in your initial honeymoon weight loss. So it's a very special program, and I do invite you, if you follow me on Facebook, if you read my stuff, if you watch my videos, and if you feel like I could help you, I do encourage you to get in touch with me directly, or to have a look at the information page that I always put up, and see whether that's something that would be your next step in succeeding in your long-term sustainable weight loss surgery journey. So I hope this has been a useful video. The biggest point I want to make is that I understand very well for compulsive, anxious, bingy eaters, the distance between the cry for help message on Facebook and the point at which you have a sufficient handle on your eating to commit to something as drastic as a sugar-free life or a keto eating plan, much as I do understand that there is value to those approaches. But don't feel hard on yourself if you see all the comments coming, keto, get off sugar, try keto. Do the work first, and in doing the work, I do believe that you will get some relief, and you will then be able to master whatever eating plan you choose to adopt. And if you'd like to work with me around this, please get in touch. All the best.